following is a video presentation of an evening worship service at Orrville Baptist Church.
I'm seeing such a blessing out of it. I know a lot of times you guys don't see the food leave when it happens during the day, and so I find it really important to tell you from here how much is going, and then just the big help that you are providing our neighbors. I want you to know about it since you don't get to see it. It's an incredible thing. So thank you, and just know that you're being a huge blessing to people in our community. And we're just traveling fast that we're people that want to give and give back. So praise God for that. What a wonderful thing. Continue to pray and think about our organ repair fund. If you'd like to provide any funds towards that, we'll just mark that organ repair, something along those lines. We'll know directly where that goes. I announced this morning the prayer list with the new church here. We are going to keep names that we know need to be on there. We're going to try to, in a sense, start over from scratch, just so we can have a better control of our prayer list that has grown. And that's, we want to pray. The people that need to be on here, we want to keep them on there. And so if you notice over the next couple of weeks that something changes and somebody can be added back on, something like that, please let us know. And we'll do everything we can for the ones that we know for a fact need to stay on there. We'll keep them there. But we're going to try to cut back a bit on the ones that we're not so sure of. And so we're going to try to start over a little bit. And so if you have any news or updates, please let us know, and we'll make sure that names stay on there. Continue to think about next Sunday, which I failed to mention. We do have deacon ordination next Sunday. Pray for next Sunday. A big moment, and a special moment for not only just in our church, but new deacons. So pray for Mark and pray for Sam as they take on this role in the church, and how they can serve us and how we can also serve them. And so pray for them both and what this means for Orrville. And then I'm gonna ask that we've got so many opportunities to give and provide things here. Keep asking for food. I know there's a lot. But over the course of the next month, also consider as Halloween candy starts to hit the shelves. I've already seen it. Katie got some yesterday, some pumpkin stuff. It's already here. We're going to try to do a little trunk or treat out here next month for Halloween, fall festival, whatever you want to call it. So consider maybe if you see some Halloween candy out, we're going to try to start collecting that. You just bring that to the church whenever you like. Be considering that. We're going to try to give out candy and make relationships at some point next month, and just show children and their families that they care about them, who want to be here with us. And I hate to think it's not a bait and switch, but we want people to come here and have fun. We want to provide candy, and I like kind of fun stuff. But at the heart of the matter, we want to enter into a conversation. We want to enter into relationship building and let people know, why is it that we exist? Why are we here? It's not just to do all these things and think about all these things and to just have fun, although we want to have fun. The key to this entire existence, we want to glorify God. We want people to see that. We want people to see, past the events and past the Halloween, past the candy. We want them to see past that stuff and let them see a love for Christ that we have. And because of our love for Christ, we want them to know we also love them as well. So consider that and think about that if you're out in CVS or even the grocery stores have that stuff now. See you wrapped. Have you wrapped, by the way? Any kind of wrapped Halloween candy or just any small size candy. Consider picking up some, and we'll have a little more details as time goes on. But we want to do something special here and provide something for the children. So we look forward to that. excited about that journey that we're still on, and looking forward to our continued journey through that book. And we talked about the resurrection of Tabitha this morning, or Dorcas in the Greek. I like Tabitha better a little bit, a little biased, to be honest. And in that message, we learned about true Christian faith. Now, we're talking saving faith. We saw what saving faith looked like in the life of Tabitha. She had the heart of a servant, a life that sought to imitate Christ, and also the service of Christ. She cared for the needy. She looked out for widows. She was someone who looked out for other people other than herself. She was not just a people pleaser. We say that in a negative connotation. She sought to serve people. She was a woman with a humble heart. She didn't make garments and clothing for others at some attempt to try to be saved. She did it because she was saved, because she cared for others. She was full of the Spirit, and as a result of being full of the Spirit, she was full of good works, as the Scriptures say. And tonight I'd like for us to continue on that theme somewhat, although in a very different direction. I want us to look at the book of Hosea. So you can go ahead and start turning that book. We'll be in chapter 6. And I don't want to keep going over the fact that saving faith leads to a life of good works. We know that. We understand it. We know what that means, and we get it. But I do want to look at a text that reinforces the heart of that message. The heart of good works out of the saving faith. I want us to look at purity of heart before God. If you open up to Hosea 6, we'll walk through the first bit here. While you're turning there, we'll talk about context a little bit. But if you open up that chapter, your Bible might have a heading that says something along the lines of Israel's response to God's rebuke, or something similar to that. Your Bible might not have a heading at all. But once again, we have come to a point in Scripture where Israel has been rebellious. Every time you turn the page, what do you find? Rebellion, rebellion, rebellion. Israel wandering, Israel going astray. It seems it's just this constant all throughout the Old Testament. And yet we make this story about Israel and their unfaithfulness when really the story is God and His faithfulness. The good news of Israel's rebellion is the strength of God in that story, all throughout the Old Testament. The faithfulness of Creator God, Yahweh, to His people that He has called out. How many times do we see it? I've lost count. All throughout the Old Testament. People who have transgressed against Him seems to happen on every single page in the Old Testament. Chapter 6 opens with Israel responding to this rebuke and this offer of forgiveness. Here's verses 1 through 3 of Hosea 6. Come, let us return to the Lord, for He has torn us, but He will heal us. Who has King James in their hands? Can you tell me what verse 1 says?
Come and let us return to the Lord, for He hath torn, He will heal us.
What's
He is sick.
Go ahead. What was the last part one more time?
He hath smitten, and He will bind us up.
I didn't look at the King James beforehand, and I wish I would have. I want you to see what's being said here. We'll come back to it and go over it, and then I'll keep reading. But to me, there's so much even in that first verse. For He has torn us, but He will heal us. He has wounded us, but He will bandage us. We'll come back to this in a moment. But verse 2. He will revive us after 2 days, and He will raise us up on the 3rd day, that we may live before Him. So let us know, let us press on to know the Lord. His going forth is as certain as the dawn, and He will come to us like the rain, like the spring rain watering the earth. It is the Lord who disciplines, and it is the Lord who strengthens. As Mike said, it is the Lord who smites. It also is the hand that comforts. It's the Lord who reproves and then comforts. Understand that this culture had a little bit of a different understanding of rain than we do. I'm the first to admit I'm a big old baby. I think I've said it before. I know how faithful I'm supposed to be about the rain, but it puts me in a bad mood. It's just, I'm one of those people that has an emotional reaction to rain. It brings me down just a little bit. I don't know why, but I've kind of always been that way. Even if I'm not going to be outside, I just prefer sunny skies over gray skies. It usually brings me down a little bit. But you ask a farmer about the rain. I have an uncle who lives in Texas who's a farmer. What do you think he thinks about the rain? Ooh, Lifeblood. Loves it. He's got to have it. I mean, he absolutely loves it. He sees the value in rain. Well, this culture also sees the great value in rain. It's more than just value, it's also a sign of blessing. There's this wonderful sign of God's presence that we kind of take for granted with the rain that they saw. They saw a sign of healing to come with the rain. There was this great blessing in the rain, whereas I would be walking outside and be raining on me, I'd be doing the Charlie Brown woe is me. Womp, 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 womp. You know, that whole song and dance. Israel would have their hands open, faces to the sky saying, praise you, Yahweh, praise you, God, for this blessing. What a wonderful thing it was for them. And God's rebuke and His forgiveness to Israel, it's a refreshment. It's a rainstorm of healing that comes upon them. And throughout the rest of this chapter, you see Israel's loyalty. It's compared to a morning cloud and a morning dew that leaves early. That's what the verses say a little bit later. The cloud and the dew, they look promising. I can also go into a rant about this. I'll be probably quick about it. But the clouds, they promise rain. They don't do anything. They're there in the morning and they go. You see it? I saw it this morning. The morning dew. It looked like it had rained all night in our house. It didn't. It just produced some dew on the grass in the morning that was kind of gross to look at, but it didn't do anything. There wasn't much you could do with that dew. Saying that word a lot, aren't you? There wasn't a whole lot that would happen with that. Part of the reason I hate the dew in the morning is we have an indoor dog. We let him out and go do his business, you know. And then in the morning, he comes back in, and what's wrong with his feet? Mud everywhere, he tracks it in. That's part of the reason I don't like the morning dew. But for this verse right here, it's looking and comparing Israel to that kind of loyalty. There's a little bit of a promise to it. There's nothing happening there. It's just dew. There's nothing like rain. Nothing like that at all. It's a cloud that just moves on the sky and produces nothing. It's just ritual. There's nothing involved. Throughout all of Israel's history, think about the timeline of Israel, what they would do. Think about their constant pitfalls and what would happen. They would often merge their beliefs with false doctrine, with false idols, with false gods, false teachings. Now here's the key to this. Many times if you look at Israel, they would adopt these other practices. They would adopt other gods. They would adopt other idols, but a lot of times their hands and feet would be doing the same thing they were born in. A lot of times they'd be stuck in their old ways. Even with false gods, even with false idols, they'd still be kind of going back to what they were passed down as good Jews, as good men and women of Israel. Their hands and their feet would practice the law, but their hearts would be elsewhere, far from God. How sad the church today, kind of like what Dale was saying during the offertory prayer. Much of the world today, much of the American church has plain dress-up church. It's just kind of putting on the show and putting on the face and walking in. And it's kind of the same thing with Israel. To do things out of a ritual, things out of a man-made tradition with hearts no longer fixated on God, but hearts that are fixated on the flesh. And a verse that I want us to camp out on tonight and think the most about tonight is verse 6 of Hosea 6. That verse, it says the following. God's word says, "For I delight in loyalty rather than sacrifice, and in the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings." Now, I don't know about you, but when I search the scriptures in the Old Testament, when I see the law passed down to Israel, I see an awful lot about sacrifice. And on top of that, on top of just seeing a lot about sacrifice, I see a lot of rules about sacrifice. So on top of sacrifices being an important part of Israel's history, I really see that God has a certain way He wants them performed. He cares about them very much. And not just the fact that they happen, but how they happen. There are actual consequences for times they did not perform the sacrifice the right way. So the question is not, does God just not even care all about sacrifices to Israel? Of course He does. He cares very much about the sacrifices that Israel has. And He also demands they be done on His terms in a way that He sees fit. Consider the importance of these sacrifices. Consider the specificity in which He desires them. This day, this kind of animal, at this time, but not this time. There's a lot of things involved. Then compare that to verse 6. Compare all that knowledge of sacrificial system in the law, and then compare it to verse 6. What is it that Hosea says God delights in? Loyalty, knowledge of God. Even under the law, even under Old Testament law for Israel, God desired that they would delight in Him. Of course, He desired that their hearts would be pure in serving Him under the law. We read and we often interpret the law of the Ten Commandments and all the Old Testament. We often interpret it as just a set of rules, a set of regulations, and a set of orders, but it is more than that. It exposed Israel. It exposes us today. It shows us who we truly are, and there's a standard that we will never be able to meet. And even under this law, Israel was to perform their duties in obedience, but also with great enjoyment of who God is. They were to find this delight in who God is. More than anything, they were to perform the duties of the law with pure motives, with pure hearts. And they could not do either of those things. First of all, they couldn't even obey the law. Second of all, they had their own motives many times. It's very sad. That's why. This is the exact reason why when you see them stray from God, they continue to perform their duties. They're addicted to the routine. They're addicted to the things that have always been done that way, the things they were born in. They understand the law in terms of the function, but they don't understand the heart behind it. And so their heart would wander elsewhere. It would fall under false gods. They would serve false gods. They would fall in love with false idols. But their hands and feet would want to continue doing the work of the law. And so they did so in vain. The instructions that God gave them were being carried out. They were doing it under false pretense in many cases. What a sad state of affairs, truly heartbreaking. I think we find this almost exact scenario being played out in the New Testament as well. Feel free to flip with me if you like, or you can just listen. I'm going to go to Matthew for a moment. I want to go to the Gospel of Matthew. Give you a moment to turn there for those who are turning. Simple, practical message that's heavy on my heart tonight. It's incredibly heavy. I'm going to finish up, actually, in Matthew 9 here. And just like we started in Hosea chapter 6, verse 6, we're going to be in Matthew chapter 9, verse 9, starting there. Here's what the Word of God says. And this is just after Jesus has healed the paralyzed man. Okay? We've had the call of Matthew to be his disciple. Verse 9 of chapter 9 of Matthew says the following. As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man called Matthew sitting in the tax collector's booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." He got up and followed him. Then it happened that as Jesus was reclining at the table in the house, behold, many tax collectors and sinners came and were dining with Jesus and his disciples. Verse 11. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why is your teacher eating with the tax collectors and sinners?" Verse 12. But when Jesus heard this, he said, "It is not those who are healthy who need a physician, but those who are sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire compassion and not sacrifice, for I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Everything that I have just mentioned about Israel is true of the Pharisees in the New Testament. Just look at their history as well. They kept the tradition, they kept the rituals, they kept the practices. They were so far from God. Their hearts were so far removed from God. They find Jesus sitting with the tax collectors and the sinners. What is their first thought? How can he be doing that? How can he be near those people that are beneath us? How could your teacher be disgracing himself by associating with these people, making himself unclean as they are unclean? And I love how Jesus responds to the Pharisees. Not just here, but almost every time in the New Testament. He always says something that just rocks them into the core. Something we would be wise to allow Jesus to do to us through his word as well. But I love how he responds here. It is not those who are healthy who need a physician, but those who are sick. Now, we can open this up a little bit, because I'll ask you a question. Jesus says, it is not for those who are healthy who need a physician, but those who are sick. What about the Pharisees? Are they not sick? Are not the Pharisees sick and in need of a physician? Absolutely. 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 They need a physician. They need a physician just as much as the sinners, the tax collectors, and everyone else born, described here in this scene. But how do the Pharisees see themselves is the question. How is it they view themselves? They view themselves as healthy, as righteous, as keepers of the law. They were people who had hearts of stone and their heads were filled with pride and with arrogance. They were in great need of a physician as well. But from their perspective, they were fully healthy. They had attained health. They didn't see this as a need. That is called self-righteousness, brothers and sisters. This is exactly what they were dealing with. People who needed healing, but thought they already had it, based on their own merit, their own worth, their own righteousness, man-made, fleshly righteousness. And in that quote from Jesus, or in that statement from Jesus, he quotes Hosea 6. With a slight little play on words, he changes one word. He states in Matthew 9:13, once again, but go and learn what this means. I desire compassion, not sacrifice. He's pointing back to Hosea 6. I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners. Right there in the middle of that verse, he quotes from the Old Testament. Make no mistake about this. They understood what he was getting at. The Pharisees heard him loud and clear and said, oh my, he's quoting the Old Testament. They understood it. They got it. They understood the reference. The problem is they got it in their heads and it never reached their hearts. It hit them in the brain, but it never touched their hearts. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why it is so important, so incredibly important for us to understand good works. This is why we must think about good works in a biblical, scriptural manner. Because if we want to truly understand good works, we must first understand salvation, period. If we want to understand good works, we need to understand salvation. We need to understand saving faith. We need to understand the righteousness of God, because this is the root out of all of this that we've been talking about this morning and now. Salvation, not good works. Now, part of good works is salvation. Is that not good news? That's the root, that's the base for everything. Those who wish to perform good works, and I mean truly good works, they don't need to ask God for opportunities for them. We want to, but they will blossom out of us. We do go to God and ask those opportunities. We do plead with God to provide us a way. But for the true Christian, they come out of our life. They arise from the cross and the empty tomb. Instead, when we first need to think about works, we say we need to do so much better, we need to have all these good works. That's kind of step 2, to be honest. The most important thing we need to be doing is, folks, we need to be needing to seek out for God and just ask for enjoyment in Him. That's kind of step 1. That's the base level. That's where everything is kind of rooted. If we want to see good works flourish, we must first find enjoyment in who He is. How can we perform good works if we don't know the purpose in carrying them out? Because far too many times, like this morning when I was saying, far too many times we say good works, good works, good works, because we want to feel justified and we want to feel better about ourselves. You're going to feel miserable trying to seek out good works without finding enjoyment in who God is first. It'll be absolute chaos and misery. Step 1 is just simply bowing before God and saying, it's you. It's you that I delight in and I find my joy in. We skip that step so often. They want to go straight and trying to do. First, enjoy God. Find enjoyment in His glory. We read this and we find it just how incredible the Pharisees never saw this or ever understood Jesus' words. For us, it's easy to look back and say, my goodness, how could they miss it? We even find out a few chapters later they never did. Turn to chapter 12 if you're still in the Bible in the book of Matthew. A couple of chapters over in chapter 12. You'll see a discussion happening on the Sabbath. And here's how this chapter opens. I'll just read those first 8 verses. Here's how chapter 12 opens. At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath, and His disciples became hungry and began to pick the heads of grain and eat. But when the Pharisees saw this, they said to Him, "Look, your disciples do what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath." But He said to them, "Have you not read what David did when he became hungry, he and his companions, how he entered the house of God, and they ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those with him, but for the priests alone? Or have you not read in the law that on the Sabbath the priests in the temple break the Sabbath and are innocent?" Verse 6, "But I say to you that something greater than the temple is here." Ooh, I love that. Verse 7, "But if you had known what this means, I desire compassion and not a sacrifice, you would have not condemned the innocent. For the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." You notice in verse 7, Jesus reminds them, you didn't understand what I meant earlier. Bring me back to them. You didn't understand what I meant earlier when I quoted from Hosea. You didn't get it. Once again, God desires compassion and not a sacrifice. I want you to see this. This is what false works do. Okay? I want you to really take a mental note here, because I want you to see it. This is exactly what empty, false works do. You see it in the Pharisees. This is what works and what comes out of an impure heart. This, right here, this is the consequence. When man-made works of the flesh, things that are disguised as good works, when that is the fruit, the bad fruit of someone, this is the attitude they adopt, right here, of the Pharisee. This is the result of clinging to false works instead of enjoying God and seeing good works. Many people would be wise to think on this. And I mean the world, the church at large, would be wise to look at this, because this is exactly what happens. This is why there's so much disarray in the church today. So much friendly fire, so to speak. Out of Pharisees, this is the attitude that gets adopted. They begin comparing their empty works of the flesh against the true works of God. Always a recipe for disaster. Always. This is what happens when someone clings to empty works. They will find satisfaction in empty works, and they will find point to blame in the good works of God. That's the truly sad, heartbreaking consequence of false, empty works. Still happening today, all these years later. Every person has either seen it or experienced it at some point in their Christian walk. All of us. Those who enjoy self-righteousness, who enjoy the works of the flesh, listen to me carefully, they are on the prowl. Like a Pharisee. They lurk. They hide in the shadows, they turn the corner, lying in wait, setting a trap, hoping to find something to fault. They always have the better way. They always have the right answer. They always value tradition over the things of God. They're like infants in dirty diapers, content to sit in their own filth while pointing out the faults of others. That is the heart of Phariseeism. They'll be the first to point out the things they don't like and the last to serve God faithfully. You can go through all of the New Testament and see the heart of the Pharisee and see this exact thing happening. valuing the works of the flesh and pointing out all the movements of God and condemning it. This is what happens when you put works before salvation. This is what happens when you value your own flesh and the things that you can do with these hands over a heart that enjoys God. This is the consequence. This is what happens. Pharisees walking around with fingers being pointed. When the unrighteous and the self-righteous, when those with impure hearts, those with false motives attempt to do good work that only brings shame and only brings guilt. Again, it's empty. And so what is it that God desires? He desires loyalty, compassion, purity. And how do we get there? Full enjoyment of who He is. Finding joy in God alone and knowing there is no one else besides Him. He alone is worthy of praise. Humbleness. Being saved through His power. That's where all of this begins. And it is. If you want to see, if you're telling yourself, oh, that's great, I understand, Pastor, but I really do want to see good works blossom, and I know that I am saved, I'm telling you, and I'm begging, delight in Him first. Look to the Word and find delight in this God. Find joy in what He's done. We just sang Count Your Blessings a minute ago. Search the course of your entire existence and say, look what you've done for me, God. How could I not find delight in you? There are times that it's hard to do that. That hymn is perfect for that very reason. I can go through a laundry list right now, even though I'm not feeling cruddy. I got clothes on. I'm breathing. I have a wife. I don't have to do my hair in the morning. I got all kinds of blessings. I'm blessed upon blessed upon blessed each and every day. And that gives me a great joy to be able to go back to God and say, you're so good. You're so good. We often find reasons to thank Him and praise Him. You have so many. All of us. All of us. Look on the news. Just turn on the news any second. It seems to be crumbling. And why me? What have I done to not be a part of this? Why am I not dead already? We have so much to be thankful for. Go find delight in what He's done and who He is. And you, I swear, you will see the good works blossom. Ask God to remove any false motives from our hearts. That everything that we do be purely driven by a heart that seeks God's glory. Listen, false works, they are the same old story. The saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's a really good saying, by the way. I think it's a great saying, something we should remember. And for many, the saying has been modified a little bit. It says, even when it's broke, don't fix it. May we pray that we are not people trapped by our own desires to be comfortable. To value tradition and to value things of the flesh over the movement of the Spirit. Here's another thing I want to talk about in terms of good works. Listen, they will take you out of your comfort zone. The Spirit will move you out of your comfort zone. All of us. The good news is He goes with us. Wherever He sends us, He's with us. Good works will take us out of our own comfort zone. False works, works of the flesh, it's like drinking poison while wrapped in a warm blanket. You're going to feel comfortable, it's going to kill you. You're going to feel nice and comfortable and snugly and love, it's deadly. It will eat us from the inside out. Destroy us from the inside out. Let us consider these things as we walk in our faith. To go back to Hosea and see what is it that God desires. Does He want the obedience? Of course, absolutely. We said that this morning. We have so many things we think are optional. Discipleship, Great Commission, all those things. Sanctification, worship. We have so many things that we check as optional, and God says, no, that's a commandment of mine. Keep it. Be holy for I am holy. So many things. It's astounding. Consider these things as you walk by faith, those things that He has given us as a command. We're to be obedient in them. We looked at Hosea and saw that sacrifice as a commandment. But understand the root of that commandment. This is what I want us to get at tonight. All those things, the Great Commission, discipleship, all those things. Think about the heart of that message. It's not about the checklist. It's about someone saying, oh my goodness, God, you see me worthy of giving you praise. You're calling me to give you praise and to carry out these tasks that you set before me. I'll delightfully do these things. God asks in the book of Isaiah, who will go for us? Isaiah is crying, this me right here. He sees the goodness in God. Let us meditate on these things and think on these things to find joy in who He is. And to feel so refreshed by the Word of God and understanding that God desires the purity behind our works, not just the works themselves. That's the heart of the message tonight. All of our good works, why do we want them? If it is to feel better, we must not sit there. If it is to feel good about ourselves, we must look at our heart. We must first desire the goodness of God and say, how great are you? Understand His majesty and to find joy in Him, and then see the good works flow out of that kind of heart. That's what honors God. That's when God is delighted and is glorified in our pure hearts. Let's reflect on these things as we go out into this world that He has created with a job to do. Let's think